Welcome to the May 27th, 2020 meeting of the Town of Southampton Conservation Board. In accordance with the Governor's Executive Order 202.1, we will be proceeding differently from our typical meetings. Until further notice, all of the board's meetings will be held remotely via video conference, so we ask the public to continually check the town's website for updates and new information. The link to participate in this meeting via Zoom can be found on the town's website. This meeting is also being live streamed on the town's website. If you do not wish to speak at the live meeting, but you would like to submit comments from the public for the public record, the link to submit comments can also be found on the town's website. Board members who must recuse themselves from any application will state so on the record and will be removed from the meeting until the end of the discussion and vote on the application. I would invite everyone to join together in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag Are you hearing me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Beat you to it.
Okay, I would invite everyone to join together in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I'm thinking not everyone is getting this. Jerry, can you hear?
We're getting it.
I
Let's
hear you. Okay.
Can you hear okay, Jerry?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I
so
can
we're gonna
hear
do
you,
the
Harry.
Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under
under God,
indivisible,
Under God,
with liberty
indivisible,
and justice for all.
with liberty
with
and justice.
Okay, well, we got through it in electronic fashion. It's not a big deal for that, but I hope the rest of the meeting will be coordinated a little bit better for the record. Charlie, do you sense a disconnect in the speaking between board members?
What happens
There's
is
a little bit of a delay.
you can't talk at the same time because it cuts out everyone. So just keep going. Everything's fine.
Okay. All right. Then the next step is a roll call for the record. We'll just go around for the board members and identify yourselves. Harry Ludlow.
Jeremiah Collins.
Mike Tessitore.
You know, it's always better if you call the
And
name.
now for the agenda. And Ann, I know you spoke. Charlie, say that again, please.
It's always better if you call the name and everyone says present or here, or it just works out better that way.
Okay. Okay, I will change my style.
No problem.
Let's
All right.
practice that. Harry Ludlow, present. Mike Tessitore,
Present.
Mike Tessitore,
Are you here?
Ann Alfieri,
Present.
and Jerry Collins.
Present.
Let's begin the agenda.
Did you hear?
Acceptance of the May 13th, 2020 minutes as written or amended? All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye. Mike Tessitore? Ann Algieri?
Aye.
And Jerry Collins?
Aye.
And it might also be helpful if, in addition to the audio, there's a visual. Mike, I noticed you raised your hand. That's very helpful to me. It means that I know you heard me and you're speaking. So let's, if you just raise your hand as you speak, so that this, so I have confirmation that you hear what I'm saying and we're getting an accurate vote. The administrative wetland permits are in your packets. We'll move on to the resolution of conditional approval, A020015, Bonnie Corin. Any discussion?
Second.
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolve that a conditional, I should go back to my agenda here. Give me just a moment to get back to my. Okay. Let's see. Give me just a moment to get to the right page. Okay, so it's moved in second for Bonnie Corin to approve the resolution, or rather, it's moved in second. Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Bonnie Corin for the proposed project on the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry Ludlow, aye.
Aye.
Mike Tessitore? Ann
Aye.
Algieri?
Aye.
And Jeremiah Collins.
Aye.
A020011, Peter Paul and John Angster. Any discussion?
Move to
Move
issue.
to issue.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Peter Paul and John Angster for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye. Mike Tessitore?
Aye.
Ann Algieri?
Aye.
And Jerry Collins.
Aye.
A020014, Jacqueline Monette. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Jacqueline Monette for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye. Mike Tessitore?
Aye.
Ann Algieri?
Aye.
Jerry Collins?
Aye.
A020016, Leonard Wadler and Albaret Wadler. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolve that a conditional wetland permit approval approval be granted to Leonard Wadler and Alberette Wadler for the proposed project by the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye. Michael Tessitore
Aye.
and Algieri.
Aye.
Jerry Collins.
Aye.
A's 190168, LWF Enterprises LLC. Any discussion?
Move to issue?
Second.
Resolve that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to LWF Enterprises LLC for the proposed project on the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye. Mike Tessitore
Aye.
and Algieri.
Aye.
Jerry Collins.
Aye.
CB 1400044, Gary Luciani. Any discussion?
Oh, no, that resolution was taken off the agenda. We'll be on for the next meeting.
Okay. So we'll delete that for this agenda. And then
It'll be on June 10th.
preliminary review. Preliminary review secret determination A 019128 Haley Way LLC.
They're looking to postpone.
Marty. Oh, you know what?
Yes,
I copied
yes,
an
that's
agenda from
correct.
yesterday instead of today. Okay. Now I got my electronic version. That puts me a little more up to date. Okay, they're asking to postpone till June 10th, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye. Mike Tessitore
Aye.
and Algieri.
Aye.
Jerry Collins.
Aye.
A 190-130, Stephen E. Summer, applicant requests a postponement.
With a date.
Marty, does the next meeting or?
Our next meeting, June 10th.
Okay, June 10th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye. Mike Tessitore
Aye.
and Jerry.
Aye.
Jerry Collins.
Aye.
A 019073, Blair Mezeboff and Jenna Klein.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This is a continuation of a discussion of the project since the last board meeting. This is a property that is situated on Jag Lane in West Hampton. It contains town and state regulated tidal wetlands, and that is not the correct project plan.
I'm trying to pull it up now. I didn't even share that. So you can keep going, Marty.
Okay, just to continue the presentation, the landowner initially requested a wetlands permit in order to make various renovations and additions to an existing one-family dwelling. The landowners were also seeking permit to construct a swimming pool with attached deck, and we're looking to upgrade the sanitary system and improve the existing driveway. As this is a pre-existing non-conforming property in that it does not comply with any of the required wetland setbacks. I had recommended that the applicant consider alternatives, including, among others, demolition of the existing residence and building of a new two-story dwelling. I had also, in my advisory report of May 7, 2020, recommended that as mitigation for potential wetland impacts, that the landowners establish a covenanted wetland preservation area inclusive of all wetlands, as well as a maximized covenanted naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer to be reclaimed through removal of existing turf and planting native vegetation. I'm happy to say that the applicants have now come forward with an excellent alternative plan that's consistent with all my recommendations, in that it calls for construction of a new home rather than renovation of the existing home, and that allows for increased wetland setbacks. It allows for construction of a pool in a manner that conforms with the minimum required 100-foot wetland construction setback. It also affords a minimum 20-foot setback from the new innovative alternative on-site wastewater treatment system that would be installed as required by the Suffolk County Health Department. The plan, as you can see, provides for an expansive naturally vegetated buffer consistent with my recommended specifications. The applicant's architect later today had responded to some emailed feedback that I provided, and has actually updated this plan further in order to call for installation of subsurface drainage chambers that I had recommended because of the shallow water conditions. The buffer that you're seeing before you on this plan would provide for an average overall buffer of 75 feet landward of wetlands, consistent with the wetland permit issuance standards. The decks would be constructed of town-approved untreated lumber, and the swimming pool would be elevated to provide a vertical buffer of at least 2 feet above groundwater, and would be equipped with a no chlorine or saltwater low chlorine treatment system. So as indicated, we're seeing an exceptional plan now, in that it is consistent with all of my recommendations. Meets required alternative analysis on part of the applicant, and it certainly complies with the wetland permit issuance standards as set forth in Chapter 325. As such, I am recommending that the public hearing requirement be waived, and I will be drafting a resolution of conditional approval to go before the board for consideration and action for the next meeting, which is scheduled for June 10. The landowners are with us here today, Blair and Jenna, as well as the architect, Eric, in case any of the board members have any questions.
Thank you, Marty.
And I just want to lastly offer that the landowner has been the landowner's architect have been most cooperative, and I want to commend them for the extraordinary amount of work that they put into revising the plan and for coming forward with a plan that'll be compatible for wetlands protection for this site. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you.
So thank you, Marty. Would you, owners or Eric, the architect, would you like to speak at all? If you may, you don't need to, except I would like to just hear you say that you do agree with the conditions and you're ready to move forward on this.
Yes, we do agree with everything Marty stated. We have responded, and we're happy to be put on that meeting for June 10th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Charlie, how do I get my screen back where I see everybody?
You don't, it'll,
Okay,
It'll come back when she unshares it.
okay. Oh, thank you. Is there a motion to waive the public hearing?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-8 of the Town Code. All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye. Mike Tessitore,
Aye.
Ann Algieri,
Aye.
and Jerry Collins.
Aye.
CB 4.22.20 ML Bridge LLC.
Marty Shagan, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This application relates to an existing residentially developed property on Dune Road in the hamlet of Bridgehampton. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated May 27, 2020. The property is located on the barrier between Mecox Bay and the Atlantic Ocean and does contain town and state regulated tidal wetlands associated with Mecox Bay. The application was made in order to gain this board's approval to make various accessory improvements to the existing elevated residence. If you were to see this dwelling, you would note that it's a partial two-story dwelling at present. They have a first floor deck with a swimming pool that's elevated significantly above existing grade. They are now looking to expand that deck by building a deck addition on the second story portion of the house. They are also seeking approval to construct a hot tub on the second story roof. When they filed the application, I noted that the survey had shown other recent accessory improvements. Upon inspecting the property, I had found that they had already completed some other hardscape instructions, including expansion of and extension of the existing front entry paver walk to provide a separate access to the pool and deck area, which you're seeing at the west end of the residence right now. They had also constructed a small deck addition and a landing with stairs at the entry to the stairs. They have a gate and pool enclosure fence. There is also, as indicated on the survey, a generator that's been installed atop the utility platform that needs to be legalized as well. Upon completion of my inspection, I advised the applicant's agent that they'll need to pay a legalization fee as part of the pending application. I also noticed that they had recently sheared or cropped some of the native landscaping and naturalized vegetation between the residence and Dune Road. The protection of that area and planting of the native vegetation was a condition of prior permits. I also noted that there were black chain link fence lines running along Dune Road, which then extends perpendicular to the pool and deck. This is a property that is already encumbered by a significant scenic easement, as well as a wetland preservation area and naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer that take in its entirety the wetlands and natural vegetation to the north of the house. And as indicated, the applicant has preserved remaining vegetation and completed native landscaping on the roadside of the house. I have no concerns with regards to legalization and approval of the completed improvements, as well as for allowance for construction of the second-story rooftop deck and installation of a hot tub atop the deck. I just asked that any permit be conditioned upon removal of the black chain link fences along Dune Road, as they're currently presenting a barrier to wildlife movement and animal dispersal. And I also asked that the landowner discontinue any cropping or shearing of natural vegetation on the property. This is an application for which we have sufficient information to make a determination. As such, I'm recommending that the public hearing requirement be waived.
Motion to waive the public hearing?
Second.
On resolve that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-80 of the Town Code. All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye. Mike Tessitore,
Aye.
Ann Algieri,
Aye.
Jerry Collins,
Aye.
CB .5.1.20, Joan Standish.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town again. The Joan Standish property is located on the west side of Rampasture Road in the hamlet of Hampton Bays. It benefits from frontage on Tiana Bay and contains town and state regulated tidal wetlands. As indicated by my May 27 advisory report, this property has a history of prior Conservation Board permits and approvals, in that it had received a permit back in 2016 in order to allow for expansion of the existing home, replacement of the former swimming pool and pool deck with a new pool. The permit allowed for upgrade of the sanitary system, as well as various hardscape improvements. That permit was conditioned upon establishment of a covenanted wetland preservation area and a naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance zone fertilization buffer that takes in all the land beyond the lawn around the perimeter of the swimming pool and patio. The applicant had sought a renewal of the prior Conservation Board permit. When I inspected the property initially, I found that the pool company was discharging the pool water into the covenanted buffer. I had asked the pool company to discontinue that practice. Subsequently, I contacted the landowner, advised them that they needed to equip the pool with a pool dry well, and that all pool water needed to be discharged directly to that pool water. I indicated that there was an encroachment in the buffer beyond the pool fence, and that some lawn needed to be taken up, and that the remaining disturbed area needed to be planted with native switchgrass. I also indicated that there was a wood walkway going through the buffer down to the beach. I asked the applicant to remove that walk and to restore that area to a sand area. I asked for an updated survey showing existing as-built improvements with the hopes that these matters could be rectified by modifying the existing wetlands permit. Despite several communications with the landowner did not formally respond to my communications until February of this year, at which time I indicated that I needed to re-inspect the property again. On completion of that site inspection, I advised the landowner that because the Conservation Board permit had expired, and because she had completed improvements that went beyond the scope of the original permit, that what she would need to do at this time is file a new Conservation Board wetland permit application, not only to reapprove those activities previously authorized by the board, but also to legalize the additional hardscape and accessory improvements made at the property. Upon reinspection this year, I did find that the landowner had complied with my request by installing additional dry wells for the pool. She had fully restored the buffer as required and taken up the unauthorized wood walk through the buffer. So with the exception of the minor improvements that need to be legalized as part of the reapproval of the formally authorized residential improvements, the property is now in compliance with the conditions of the prior wetlands permit. We do have sufficient information in order to make a determination on this application. As such, recommending that the hearing requirement be waived.
I had a
So moved
question.
with the hearing, the public hearing?
I'm sorry.
Mike, you had a question?
Go ahead, I'll wait for Ann.
Okay, go ahead,
No, I
Ann.
was thinking- No, go ahead, ask your question.
So they put a second story on this house outside of the permit?
No, the second story that was constructed was compliant with the initial Conservation Board permit. They did, however, construct second floor decks that went beyond the scope of the original permit.
Right, what kind of water's in the pool?
The pool is a saltwater pool.
It is salt water.
Required by my office, correct.
Does this property have an IA system in it?
No, it actually has an upgraded conventional system, as the IA requirements did not become effective until after the applicant had completed the living area additions to the residence consistent with the original permit.
Yeah, but if they had to reapply for a new permit to do what the work that's there, they would have to put in an IA system. And this is a great property to see an IA system in it.
Well, they had to apply for a new permit in order to get the activities that were previously authorized reapproved since the permit had expired. All of the new activities are either hardscape or accessory improvements rather than living area improvements. Because those additional activities don't pose significant adverse impacts in terms of water quality and don't constitute additional living area. I did not feel that it was appropriate to require an upgrade to an IA OWTS system at this time.
Was their septic system recertified recently?
I would have to check on the date of that certification, but my recollection is that they have all required Suffolk County Health Department approvals for their septic system. In the event that the applicant came forward with a new application to expand living area space, I would indeed recommend that this board require an IA OWTS upgrade at that time.
It's always easier to pay the $1,000 fee and ask for forgiveness later and modify a permit. Just not a fan of that. Not a fan of using modifications to bypass having to put in a D-night system. I'd rather see a hearing.
Does anyone else want to see that? Or Mike, will that stand in the way of you approving, waiving the public hearing?
Yes.
Let's have a hearing.
If the board is so interested, what I can do is I can reach out to the landowner to get additional information with regards to the existing sanitary system and with regards to health department approvals. And I can forward that to board members, or we can continue our discussion of the preliminary review at the June 10th meeting, where at such time I can present such information, or again, the board could elect to schedule a public hearing on this application at this time.
I think Mike brings up some important points, but I think we're a little short of information to take the next step of scheduling a public hearing. I would be in favor of, Marty, you doing some more legwork with the applicant, get more information, and continue the preliminary review of secret determination discussion at the next meeting. Would that be all right with you, Mike,
Yes, sir.
and other board members?
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
Okay, then I would entertain a meeting to adjourn this to the next meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye.
Aye.
Mike Tessitore, aye. Ann Algieri,
Aye.
and Jerry Collins.
Aye.
We'll move on now to the resolution to issue modification, CB 1300041, Joseph B. Andresi Jr.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. The Joseph Andriasi property is situated at the junction of Edgewoods Road and Deerfield Road in the hamlet of Watermill. The property is adjacent to town-regulated freshwater wetlands. This board had previously issued a wetlands permit in order to allow for construction of a single-family residence. The residence was built after this aerial photo was taken. That permit also allowed for construction of a swimming pool and a tennis court. The permit was conditioned upon establishment of a covenanted naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer, which takes in all forested land lying within 100 feet of the adjacent wetlands. The applicant had sought to close out the permit for the house and pool prior to constructing the tennis court by filing a certificate of wetland compliance application. When my office inspected the property, we found that some changes had been made to the configuration of the previously approved residential structures. The landowner had also constructed a concrete wall around the easterly and northeasterly footprint of the developed area. The height of the wall reaches as high as 6 feet. The construction, neither the changes to the configuration or of the structures nor the concrete retaining wall was previously authorized as part of the original Conservation Board permit. Notwithstanding the additional improvements, changes in construction, property is in compliance with the buffer requirements, and the construction, the modified construction does not pose any potential for any new significant adverse wetland permits. So the project is essentially in compliance with the original permit. For that reason, I have drafted a resolution that's before you that allows for you to issue a modified wetlands permit in order for us to legalize these improvements so that the applicant can file a second certificate of wetland compliance and close out the wetland permit so that they can proceed with filing for a certificate of occupancy from the building division.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Issue modification.
Is there a second?
Second.
Resolved that a wetlands permit modification be issued to Joseph Andriasi Jr. for the proposed project to run the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry Ludlow, aye. Mike Tessitore,
Aye.
Ann Algieri,
Aye.
Jerry Collins.
Aye.
CB 1500074 190 Fowler LLC.
This application has been filed in order to legalize some common drive changes and to allow for further buffer restoration for a common private driveway that serves 3 residences in a subdivision on the east side of Fowler Street in the hamlet of Watermill. The properties contain town and state regulated freshwater wetlands. The modifications that are being sought with regards to the common drive are minor. The applicant had initially sought permission to allow for buffer restoration through natural vegetative succession and recovery. Upon inspection, I indicated that I would recommend against that because the buffer area is still significantly disturbed as a consequence of construction in the area. And because this area has a history of farming, unless the buffer is actively planted, it's likely to succeed to invasive non-native vegetation. While the landowners were initially concerned about the cost of the active buffer plantings, they have agreed to fully revegetate the disturbed areas consistent with the requirements. As you can see on the plans before you, the modifications to the initial permit also call for a modified turnaround or K-turn, as well as the installation of subsurface drainage chambers on the landward side of the common drive. There is nothing about this application that poses the risk of new significant adverse wetland impacts. The changes to construction are yet consistent with the general scope of what was originally approved. The applicant has agreed to undertake all the required mitigation. As such, I'm recommending that the permit be modified to allow the landowner to go forward. The drive changes will also include the installation of a drive entry gate, which likewise poses no potential for adverse wetland impacts. The applicant is ready to get the revegetation underway within the next couple weeks. So I am recommending that the board vote in favor of modifying the wetlands permit in order to allow the applicant to proceed.
Motion to issue modification.
Second.
Resolved that a wetlands permit modification be issued to 190 Fowler LLC for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Ira Ludlow, aye. Mike Tessitore,
Aye.
Ann Algeri, and Jerry Collins.
Aye.
DB 17013 57 Big Fresh Pond, Southampton LLC.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This property fronts on Big Fresh Pond. It's located in the hamlet of North Sea. The Conservation Board had previously issued a wetlands permit in order to allow for various additions and improvements to the existing residence. The applicant was asked to upgrade the septic system and install an innovative alternative on-site wastewater treatment system. The applicant is seeking to modify the permit in order to allow for a proposed paver walkway around the perimeter of the residence. Also allow for rear entry steps to sliders and an existing elevated deck area. They're also looking to reconstruct the minor brick and concrete block retaining wall on the immediate rear side of the house. I did have an opportunity to go with the property and meet with the landowner. At that time, I found that the landowner had replaced the former concrete patio beneath the second floor deck, which you're seeing at the northeast corner of the house, without the requisite wetland permits within the same footprint as the elevated deck. I also noted that the elevated deck was deteriorated, and it appeared to be unsafe due to the hastily installed post holding the deck up. I noticed significant wood rot in both the deck boards and the underlying deck joists. So I advise the applicant that in the interest of safety, that they should seek a modified permit also to reconstruct that elevated deck, as well as to include stairs and to complete those building activities using town-approved untreated lumber. The applicant agreed that that made sense, so they have since made that part of the application. I also noticed that the property has an existing concrete stairway going down to the edge of the pond. The applicant had initially sought this board's approval in order to create a facade or additional layer atop that existing concrete stairs. I had indicated that if the board wanted, that if the applicant wanted, that if the landowner wanted to make any improvements to those stairs, I would recommend that the concrete stairs be taken up and that the stairway be replaced with a light penetrable stairway supported by untreated wood posts. Property has a very steep slope between the residence and the pond edge. I also noticed that there's bare, compacted soil immediately beyond the existing elevated deck. I asked the applicant to break up that soil and to plant that area with native ferns. I also expressed concern about the intended walkways along the east side of the house and the pond side of the house, as there is highly compacted sloping ground in both those areas. Upon noting that the applicant had recently acquired many slates, I asked that the applicant, that the landowner come forward with a new plan for grassed slate stairs on both the east side of the residence and extending from the proposed deck stairs to the proposed paver walk that you see going around the northwest perimeter of the house, as there is sloping ground in that area, and I am concerned about erosion and siltation of the pond. I have provided the landowner with visuals of different designs that can be utilized. I'm asking that the slates be hand set in the slopes, that they be uncemented, and that rather than grass, that native Pennsylvania sedge be planted between the spaced slates and around the edges of the slates. The landowner is pleased with that design alternative, and as such is happy to come forward with a plan for a more compatible stairway on both the pond side and the east side of the house. The applicant has also agreed to utilize slates for the purposes of demolishing the new unauthorized concrete patio that was built below the deck. Rather, they will install widely spaced slates in pea stone or with native sedge planted between those slates. And the new pervious patio would be wholly within the bounds of the existing footprint of the deck that you're seeing on the survey, as well as within the existing footprint of the former patio. Lastly, I noted upon inspection that perhaps 20 to 25 of the required native sweet pepper bush plants have failed. I asked that the applicant replace that pepper bush with new plantings. I also provided further guidance to the landowner and the landowner's agent with regards to additional supplemental native vegetation that's needed around the perimeter of the residence. There is also 2 above ground propane tanks on the each side of the residence that need to be legalized as well. The applicant has paid the requisite legalization fee, and as indicated, they are willing to make the necessary changes to make this residence more environmentally compatible with protection of Big Fresh Pond. As such, I'm recommending that the board approve the resolution before you to modify the existing permit to allow the applicant to go forward so we can finish this project and move towards issuance of a certificate of wetland compliance.
Thank you, Marty. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
second,
Resolved that a wetlands permit modification be issued to 57 Big Fresh Pond, Southampton LLC for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry Ludlow, aye. Mike Tessitore?
Aye.
Ann Algieri?
aye,
And Jerry Collins.
Aye.
CB 17054, Jeffrey Anschlauer.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This wetland permit modification application relates to a property on at 2 Crescent Drive in the hamlet of Noyak. The property contains town and state regulated tidal wetlands. The board had previously issued a permit that allows for construction of a swimming pool to be partially elevated above ground on the south side of the residence, close to the southwest corner of that dwelling. At maximized setbacks from wetlands. As you can see, that permit was conditioned upon establishment of a covenanted wetland preservation area inclusive of all wetlands, as well as upon establishment of a restored covenanted naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance non-fertilization buffer zone. The landowner had previously received the conservation board permit, decided to sell the property prior to undertaking the authorized improvements. The new landowner filed the application to seek authorization for changes to the initial construction plan. My office has been working very closely with the landowner as we had significant concerns regarding the additional plan, which called for deposition of significant fill, significant grade changes as well, in order to provide for an elevated lawn terrace around the elevated pool. We have worked steadily with the applicant to minimize any grade changes. So the plans that you're seeing this evening will be significantly modified. The pool location and footprint has not changed. And the applicant has agreed to fully comply with the covenanted restrictions on property. As the applicant has been most cooperative with regards to redesigning this project in a manner that it doesn't pose any risk of new or significant adverse wetland impacts. I'm recommending that you approve the resolution before you in order to allow for issuance of a modified permit to allow the applicant to go forward with this project plan, which my office has deemed to be compatible with the scope of the mitigation and other measures that and conditions that had been required as part of the original wetlands permit. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Resolved that a wetlands permit modification be issued to Jeffrey Angelar for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor, say aye. Harry Ludlow, aye. Michael Tessitore,
Aye.
Ann Algieri,
Aye.
and Jerry Collins.
Aye.
That completes the agenda. Is there anything else that should come before this meeting? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, Harry Ludlow, aye. Michael Tessitore, Ann Algieri,
Aye.
and Jerry Collins.
Aye.
Thank you all. See
Thank
you.
you.